Create Sew. Today we're going to be crocheting and we're going to be making an ear warmer headband. This is a quick fun project that doesn't take too much yarn. I'm just using regular worsted weight yarn. I'm going to demonstrate this project using a solid color. This is I Love This Yarn, which I purchased from Hobby Lobby, but I really love making this project with multicolor yarns. So these two I picked up at Joann's. These are Big Twist Value yarns, which I really love because they're super soft. For me, I can make about 3 headbands from each skein of yarn. It's nice for these headbands to have a bit of stretch, so it's good if you're not crocheting super tight. So I'm going to be using a 4.5mm crochet hook, but if you're a really tight crocheter, you may want to go up to a size 5. Let's go ahead and get started. To make this project, you're going to need some worsted weight yarn. You're also going to want scissors, 2 stitch markers, and a yarn needle with a blunt tip. I'm going to start by making a slip knot. To make the slip knot, I like to take the tail of the yarn and place it over the main strip, then reach through the loop and grab your working yarn. And now I'm going to chain 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Now looking at the chain, you should have 15 stitches. Not including the loop that's on the hook, the first V is your turning chain, so we are going to skip that chain. And then we are going to make 1 single crochet in the second V from the hook. So not this first one here, but this one. So I'm going to go ahead and insert my hook into that stitch. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both. So that is my first stitch in row 1. And now I'm going to mark that stitch. So again, you can see, not including the loop that's on the hook, the first single crochet I created right here. So I'm going to take my stitch marker and I'm going to put my marker through both sides of the V there to mark my first stitch. I find that this is really helpful on this project. I've made it a couple times now, and if I don't use the markers, mine tends to either shrink or grow, and the markers help me know the correct place to stop. So every time I make a first stitch in a row, I'm going to put my marker there. So we're going to start with 3 single crochet. So we've done 1, and now we need 2 more. So in the next chain, I'm going to do a single crochet and then 1 more single crochet in the next one. Then I'm going to do 8 half double. So to half double, yarn over, go through the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all 3. So I'm going to repeat that for a total of 8 half double crochet. So that was 1. There's 2. 3. 4. 5. 6, 7, 8. And then for the last 3 stitches in the row, I'm going to once again single crochet. So on these you do not yarn over. So I'm just going to go through the stitch, yarn over, through both. Go through the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, through both. Go through the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through both. So counting from your marker, you should have a total of 14 stitches. And then since our ends are single crochet, we're going to have a turning chain of 1. So I've completed my first row and now I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Not counting the loop that's on the hook. This V is my turning chain, so I'm not going to use that. So I'm going to go into the second V here when I do my first single crochet in this row. For row 2, and for every row that follows, we're going to be stitching back loop only. So I'm not going to use my turning chain, so I'm not going to use the first stitch here. I'm going to go into the second stitch, and I'm going to go into the center of the V and through the back loop. And then yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, go through both. So there's my first single crochet. This is the first stitch in my row. So I'm going to put a stitch marker through both sides of the V there. And I'm going to continue 2 more single crochet back loop only. So I'm going to go through the center of the V, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through both. Through the center of the V, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through both. So I've now done 1, 2, 3 single crochet, and now I need to do 8 half double. Again, these are also back loop only. So I'm going to yarn over and then go through the center of the V. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through all 3. Yarn over, go through the center of the V and through the back loop only, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through all 3, and continue 6 more times. And for the last 3 stitches, we're going to go back to single crochet. So into the middle of the V, pull up a loop, and through 2. Into the center of the V, back loop only, pull up, through 2. And notice you can see that we've ended in the right spot because the stitch I'm going into last is the one with my marker. So that was my last stitch in that row. I should have 14 stitches. So this is a good time to count and check. And then turning chain 1, turn your work. Again, this first V here is your turning chain. So when we make our first stitch, we do not use that chain. We go into the second V. Again, this is back loop only and we need 3 single crochet. So I'm going to go into the V there. And there's my first stitch in the row. So again, because it's my first stitch, I'm going to mark it. I don't need this marker anymore, so I'm going to take that out and put it under the stitch I just made. And 2 more single crochet. And again, we're working back loop only. Now 8 half double, So remember, for the half double, you yarn over, then go through the center of V, back loop only, yarn up, yarn over, and go through 3. Yarn over, go through the center, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through 3. Then for the last 3 stitches, we're going to do single crochet back loop only. So don't yarn over for these. And I know I'm in the right spot because the last stitch I'm about to go into has my marker. So there's the last stitch in the row, and you should have 14 stitches. Turning chain of 1, turn, make your first stitch not in the turning chain, but in the second V. Move your marker to your first stitch, and continue for 3 single crochet. So that's number 2, and that's number 3. And you'll continue until it's the desired length. It is important to measure and check. These 2 earwarmers were made with the same brand of yarn, the same size hook, but they did not end up the same size. And the magenta headband actually has fewer rows. This headband that I made has 71 rows. This one only has 66. Even though they're the same brand, same weight, same hook. So always check frequently. So I recommend, when you think it's getting to be an appropriate length, to wrap it around your hairline over your ears to make sure it's the size you want. I'm gonna stop when I get to 60 rows to check the fit. So I'll do that and I'll come back. I've crocheted 61 rows and it's the length I want it. You do want to make sure that your stitches are loose enough that it stretches a bit. So I like to make mine just a little bit shorter than the circumference around my head, and then since it stretches, it will pull snug. But if you prefer it looser, you can make it a little bit bigger than that. But for this yarn that I'm using here, I found that 61 rows was sufficient. So I've made 61 rows, and then I'm going to trim off my yarn. Now that I've trimmed my yarn, I'm going to fasten off. I'm just going to yarn over and pull through the loop. You do want to make sure you leave the tail pretty long. You're going to use this to sew the ends together. And now I'm going to fold it in half, matching up the 2 short ends. So I'm going to grab my yarn needle and I'm just going to sew it together with a whip stitch. One side is the starting chain and one side has the top of my stitches. Sometimes if I'm having a hard time keeping them aligned, I'll take my stitch marker and put it through the last stitch of each. But that is optional. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. So I'm just going to loop over to the other side and pull it through. I am going under both sides of the V when I wrap it. You want to pull it so that it's snug, but not super tight. the end I like to tie a knot, so I do this by making a loop, and then I'm going to place my needle up through the loop. So my yarn's getting a little bit short, so I got to be careful here. And then pull, and then there's my loop. And now I'm going to weave in the ends. So I'm going to open this up and weave in the end under several stitches. And I don't have enough yarn here, but if I did, I'd turn around and do a few the other direction. But I'm just going to snip this off because it's getting short. And then I'm going to weave in the other end. If the join here doesn't feel very stable, you can tie another knot if you'd like to. Mine's a little loose, so I think I'm going to do that. So I've got the little loop here made from putting my needle through there, and I'm just going to go up through the loop and pull it snug. And now I'll weave in my yarn tail. And I've got plenty of yarn, so I'll go back the other direction. And trim off the end. The side where I weaved in the ends, I usually make the wrong side, so I'm going to flip it. And there's my headband. I hope you've enjoyed this project. Until next time, have fun crocheting.